The Emperor was silent for a long moment. If what Commander Vexar reports is true, why would these beings warn us rather than seek revenge? If they possess such power, why not simply destroy our empire as we destroyed their world? That is the most troubling question of all, Kaznar admitted. The only logical conclusion is that they genuinely fear something greater than themselves, something they believe threatens us both. Emperor Xorax rose from his throne, moving to the observation window that overlooked the vast Imperial armada assembled outside. 10,000 warships, the mightiest concentration of military power in the known galaxy. "Send a message to Commander Vexar," he said finally. "He is to maintain position and await the arrival of the Imperial fleet. If these humans wish to contact us again, I will speak with them personally." Kaznar bowed. "As you command, Your Eminence." 7 cycles later, the Imperial fleet emerged from hyperspace at the coordinates where Commander Vexar had encountered the human vessels. Emperor Xorax stood on the command deck of the Dominion's Glory, his royal guard flanking him as the inevitable conquest came into view. "Hail Commander Vexar," he ordered. The commander's image appeared on the main view screen, his posture rigid with formal deference. "Your Imperial Eminence honors us with your presence." "Save the formalities, Commander. Have there been any further contacts with these humans?" "No, Your Eminence, but our sensors have detected increasing spatial distortions throughout this sector. Something is happening to the fabric of space-time itself." Emperor Xorax frowned. "Show me." The view screen shifted to a sensor display. Even to the Emperor's untrained eye, it was clear something was wrong. Space itself seemed to be folding, creating ripples and patterns that defied normal physics. "What am I looking at, Commander?" "We believe they're dimensional fractures, Your Eminence, as if the boundary between our reality and something else is growing thin." Before the Emperor could respond, alarms blared across both vessels. "Multiple spatial anomalies forming," reported a sensor officer. "They're surrounding the fleet." On the view screen, the void began to shimmer and distort. Not just in one location as before, but everywhere. Hundreds of points where reality itself seemed to bend inward. From each distortion emerged one of the Mercury-like vessels Vexar had described, flowing into existence as if space itself was giving birth to them. "All vessels, battle formation," Emperor Xorax commanded. "Weapons systems online. Prepare tow." "Your Eminence," interrupted Commander Vexar, "I strongly advise against hostile action. Our weapons had no effect on them before." The Emperor's mandibles clicked in irritation, but he recognized the wisdom in Vexar's words. "Very well. Open a communication channel to their vessels." For several tense moments, there was no response. Then, without warning, the command deck of the Dominion's Glory transformed. The Emperor and his officers still stood in the same positions, but the deck itself had changed, expanding infinitely in all directions, the stars visible through the viewports now seeming to exist within the room itself rather than outside it. Before them appeared a figure, humanoid in general shape, but composed of the same flowing, mercury-like substance as the vessels. Its features were minimal, constantly shifting, yet somehow expressing intelligence and purpose. "Emperor Xorax VI of the Surax Dominion," the figure said, its voice resonating not through the air, but directly within the minds of all present. "We meet at last." The Emperor, to his credit, showed no fear. "You have the advantage of me. You know my name, but I do not know yours." The figure inclined its head. "Names as you understand them have little meaning to us now. But once, long ago, I was called Adrian Chen, Chief Quantum Architect of the Earth Preservation Initiative. You claim to be human. From Earth." "I was human," the figure corrected. "What I am now has no simple definition in your language. But my origin was Earth, yes." Emperor Xorax studied the being. "Your message to Commander Vexar was cryptic. You told him to run, yet you speak of cooperation. Explain yourself." The figure, Adrian, gestured, and the infinite space around them filled with images, galaxies, nebulae, star systems, all connected by threads of light. 40,000 years ago, your ancestors destroyed our world because they feared what we might become. They were right to fear us, but wrong to try to destroy us. In that moment of extinction, facing the end of everything we knew, humanity achieved its first transcendence. On the view screen, the void began to change again. The absolute nothingness receded, revealing something within, a vessel, if it could be called that. It had no discernible shape, constantly shifting like liquid mercury, but somehow maintaining cohesion. It was enormous, dwarfing even the inevitable conquest. "What do you want?" Vexar asked, fighting to keep his voice steady. "Want?" The voice seemed almost amused. "We want nothing from you, Supreme Commander Vexar of the Serax Empire. We simply came to deliver a message." The void surrounding the strange vessel began to pulse with light, not from any external source, but as if reality itself was being illuminated from within. With each pulse, Vexar felt something he had never experienced before: fear, primal, instinctual fear that resonated in the deepest parts of his genetic memory. "Your ancestors destroyed our homeworld," the voice continued. "They believed they had eradicated us from existence, a minor species, barely worth noting in their conquest logs. But they were wrong." The pulsing light increased in frequency, and with each flash, more vessels appeared, hundreds, then thousands of the Mercury-like ships, each one morphing and flowing as if alive. "We did not die. We evolved. We transcended. While your civilization conquered planets, we learned to exist between the very atoms of reality. While you enslaved bodies, we freed ourselves from their limitations entirely." Science Director Naleth's hands flew across her console. "Commander, these readings, these beings, they're not just using advanced technology. They are advanced technology, some kind of biomechanical fusion on a quantum level." "Impossible," Vexar muttered, but the evidence was before his eyes. "For 40,000 years, we watched," the voice continued. "We observed your empire grow. We studied your methods. We waited, and we prepared. And now, Supreme Commander, we have come to deliver our message." The entire fleet of shifting, Mercury-like vessels pulsed in perfect unison, and across every screen, console, and communication device in the Serax fleet, a single word appeared, burning itself into the visual centers of their brains: "Run." "This is absurd," Vexar declared, though his voice lacked conviction. "We are the Serax Empire. We do not flee. We conquer. All vessels target the primary anomaly vessel and fire." The Serax fleet unleashed its full arsenal: particle beams, antimatter missiles, quantum torpedoes, a barrage that could reduce a planet to molten slag. The weapons simply passed through the human vessels as if they were projections, holographic ghosts in the void. "You misunderstand," the voice said, all traces of amusement gone. "This is not a threat. This is not a negotiation. This is a warning, offered once out of respect for what your species might yet become." The Mercury-like vessels began to move, flowing between the Serax ships with impossible grace. Wherever they passed, systems failed, engines died, life support faltered. "We could end you," the voice continued. "We could erase the Serax from existence as easily as you once erased our world. But we have evolved beyond such simplistic retribution." On the command deck, consoles exploded in cascades of sparks. The artificial gravity fluctuated, sending crew members floating momentarily before crashing back to the deck. "What are you doing?" Vexar demanded. "Demonstrating," the voice replied simply. "Your most advanced weapons cannot touch us. Your strongest shields cannot stop us. We exist in dimensions your science has yet to discover." Through the chaos on his command deck, Vexar saw Naleth working frantically at a still-functioning console. "Commander," she called out, "I've identified references to humans in our ancestral archives. They were from a planet called Earth in the Orion Spur. It was destroyed during the Fourth Expansion Era by the Cleansing Fleet. Why should I care about ancient history now? Vexar snarled. Because, Commander, Naleth's voice trembled. The records indicate Earth was destroyed because our ancestors discovered something there. A potential they feared. The humans were developing too quickly, showing signs of evolutionary acceleration that our predictive models couldn't account for. The voice spoke again, as if it had heard every word. Your ancestors were right to fear us, Vexar. They saw our potential, but in trying to extinguish it, they only forced us to realize it sooner. Around the Serax fleet, space itself seemed to ripple and distort. Stars blurred. Reality flexed. You have a choice now, the voice said. The same choice we once had. Adapt or perish, evolve or fall behind. We have delivered our message. What you do with it is your decision. All across the fleet, a countdown appeared on every functioning screen. 30, 29, 28. What happens when it reaches 0? Vexar demanded. We leave, the voice answered simply. And you decide whether to heed our warning or follow the path of conquest until you encounter something even less merciful than we are. 15, 14, 13. There are older things in this galaxy than either of our species, Commander. Ancient beings who slumber in the spaces between stars. Your empire's expansion is drawing their attention. We evolved to survive them. You still can too. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As the countdown reached 0, the void pulsed one final time. The Mercury ships flowed together, merging into a single massive entity that folded in upon itself, vanishing as if it had never existed. Left behind was the Serax fleet, damaged but intact, and a single message burned into the command deck's main view screen. Run. Not a from US. With US. Vexar stood in silence as emergency systems gradually restored power throughout the fleet. Around him, his crew awaited orders, their certainty shaken for the first time in their lives. Science Director Naleth approached slowly. Commander, what are your orders? Vexar stared at the message, its implications cascading through his mind like a collapsing star. For the first time in 12,000 years of Serax history, a Supreme Commander considered the unthinkable. Recall the cleansing fleet, he said quietly. All of them. Sir, Naleth couldn't hide her shock. And prepare a transmission to the Emperor. Priority Alpha. I need to report on a first contact situation. As the inevitable conquest turned away from the now empty region of space, Vexar wondered if he was witnessing the beginning of the end for the Serax Empire, or perhaps something far more significant. A new beginning. The convergence. Emperor Exorax Vitae, supreme ruler of the Serax Dominion, conqueror of 1,000 worlds, and keeper of the eternal flame, was not accustomed to uncertainty. For 9 centuries, he had guided the empire with absolute authority, his decisions unquestioned, his will manifest across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. But as he reviewed Supreme Commander Vexar's report for the 3rd time, uncertainty was exactly what he felt. This is preposterous, he finally declared, his voice echoing through the obsidian chamber of his private sanctum aboard the Imperial Fortress ship Dominion's Glory. Humans, evolved into energy beings, warning us of some greater threat. Nonsense. Commander Vexar has clearly suffered a psychological breakdown. High General Kazanar, the Emperor's most trusted military advisor, shifted uncomfortably. The report was corroborated by every senior officer aboard the inevitable conquest, Your Eminence, and the sensor logs. They contain readings we cannot explain. Emperor Xorax's secondary eyes narrowed while his primary sep remained fixed on the holographic display. You believe this, then? That some species our ancestors destroyed 40 millennia ago has returned as, what? Gods. Not gods, Your Eminence, but perhaps something our science cannot yet comprehend. The ancestral archives do mention Earth's destruction was ordered due to evolutionary anomalies detected in the human genome. The Emperor waved a dismissive hand. Ancient history, irrelevant. With respect, Your Eminence, perhaps not. I've had our historians extract the complete records of Earth's cleansing. What they found was troubling. Kaznar activated his own data terminal, and a new hologram flickered to life. Ancient footage from the Serax fleet that had destroyed Earth. The quality was poor by modern standards, but clear enough to see a blue-green world surrounded by primitive orbital structures. This was recorded by the cleansing fleet 40,273 years ago, Kaznar explained. Standard procedure: record the cleansing for the archives, then move on to the next target. The recording showed Serax vessels of an ancient design opening fire on the planet. Energy weapons tore through the atmosphere, boiling away oceans, shattering continents. A textbook planetary cleansing. But then something unexpected happened. As the planet began to break apart, a strange luminescence emerged from the destruction. Not fire or radiation, but something else. A deliberate pattern that coalesced into a spherical formation before vanishing in a flash of light that temporarily blinded the recording sensors. The fleet commander noted this anomaly but dismissed it as an unexpected interaction between their weapons and Earth's magnetic field. Kaznar continued, but now with Commander Vexar's encounter. Emperor Sorax leaned forward, his interest finally piqued. You think this was them? These humans escaping? It's possible, Your Eminence. The cleansing fleet reported that humans had only recently achieved spaceflight. Their technology should not have been capable of surviving planetary destruction. Yet this energy signature suggests something else was happening, something our ancestors failed to recognize. The echo from the void. The Serax Empire stretched across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy, their dominion unchallenged for over 12,000 cycles. Their sleek, crystalline ships cut through the void like predators, hungry for new worlds to consume and new species to subjugate. Supreme Commander Vexar stood on the command deck of the inevitable conquest, his 4 arms folded behind his back as he gazed at the holographic display of their latest acquisition. A resource-rich system with primitive inhabitants who had barely mastered nuclear fission. Preparations for planetary cleansing are complete, Supreme Commander, reported Science Director Nalith, her scaled head bowing slightly. The indigenous species has offered 17 formal surrenders in the last rotation. Shall we accept? Vexar's mouth slits curved into what passed for a smile among the Serax. No. Their technology is too primitive to be useful, and their biology is incompatible with our labor needs. Cleanse the surface and begin resource extraction immediately. Such was the way of the Serax, ruthless efficiency above all else. The weak perished, the strong consumed. This was the natural order that had served them for millennia. Supreme Commander, the sensor officer's voice crackled with unusual tension. We're detecting anomalous readings from the outer rim, Sector 87 Delta. Vexar's attention shifted, his 6 eyes narrowing. Explain. It appears to be some kind of spatial distortion. Sir, unlike anything in our records, it's growing. The massive viewscreen shifted to display a seemingly empty region of space, but there was something wrong with the starfield. The light bent unnaturally around a spherical region approximately 20,000 kilometers in diameter. Within this distortion, sensors detected nothing. Absolute void. Analysis. Vexar demanded. Science Director Nalith approached the sensor station, her claws tapping rapidly on the console. Unknown technology. It's not cloaking as we understand it. More like, the space itself is being folded. Fascinating. Is it a natural phenomenon? No, Commander. The pattern is too precise, too structured. This is artificial. Vexar's mandibles clicked with irritation. The Serax had cataloged every spacefaring civilization in this sector. Nothing should exist that could generate such technology. Deploy scout vessels. Full sensor sweep. I want answers. 3 sleek Serax scout ships detached from the fleet, accelerating toward the anomaly. Their transmissions came through clearly on the command deck. Scout 1 approaching anomaly perimeter. No change in readings, still registering as complete void. Scout 2, flanking from Vector 32 Mark 7, attempting deep scan. Scout 3, holding position as backup, standing by. The bridge crew watched as the scout vessels approached the distortion. Scout 1 reached the perimeter first. Contact imminent in 3, 2, 1. The transmission cut off. On the view screen, Scout 1 simply vanished. No explosion, no debris. It entered the distortion and ceased to exist. Scout 1. Report. Vexar demanded. Only silence answered. Scout 2. Retreat immediately, ordered Naleth. But before Scout 2 could acknowledge, the distortion changed. It wasn't growing anymore. It was moving. Flowing like liquid across space, it engulfed Scout 2 before the vessel could alter course. Scout 3 managed to fire its engines to full retreat, but tendrils of the void stretched out, impossibly fast, wrapping around the fleeing vessel and pulling it into nothingness. Battle stations. Vexar roared. All vessels, defensive formation Alpha. Weapon systems online. The Serax fleet, 50 vessels strong, arranged themselves into a crescent formation. Particle cannons charge. Missile bays opened. Shields strengthened to maximum capacity. And still the void advanced. Supreme Commander, Naleth's voice had dropped to a whisper. We're receiving a transmission. From where? The void. Yes, sir. Vexar hesitated only for a moment. Put it through. The bridge speakers crackled with static before resolving into a clear, calm voice. The language was not Seraxian, yet somehow every crew member understood perfectly. We know who you are, Serax. We know what you've done. We've watched you for a very long time. The voice was neither male nor female, neither young nor old. It simply was, like the concept of inevitability given sound. Identify yourself, Vexar demanded. A pause. Then, we were once called human. The name meant nothing to Vexar, but Science Director Naleth gasped, her scales paling to an ashen gray. Impossible, she whispered. The humans were extinct. Their world was destroyed over 40,000 years ago. You remember us, the voice said, a note of satisfaction evident. Good. Memory is important. We have remembered you for 40 millennia. The images shifted, showing the destruction of Earth, but from a different perspective, from within. The strange luminescence Kaznar had shown in the ancient recording was revealed to be billions of human minds, somehow converted to energy in the final moment, preserving their collective consciousness as their world died around them. We escaped into the quantum foam between dimensions, Adrian continued. We existed without form, learning, growing, evolving. We watched your empire expand. We observed other civilizations rise and fall. And eventually we learned to create new bodies for ourselves, vessels of thought and energy rather than flesh. And now you've returned for revenge. The Emperor asked, his hand reflexively moving toward his ceremonial blade. Adrian's fluid features formed what might have been a smile. No, if revenge were our goal, Emperor, your civilization would have ended the moment we chose to act. We have evolved beyond such primitive impulses. Then what do you want from us? To warn you, to help you survive what's coming. The images surrounding them changed again, showing the edge of the galaxy, a region of space the Serax had never explored. There, between the stars, something moved, something vast and dark, consuming light and matter alike. We call them the Void Weavers, Adrian explained. They exist partly in our dimension, partly in others. They feed on energy, all energy, including the energy of life itself. They have consumed 12 galaxies that we know of. Now they've reached the edge of ours. Emperor Xorax stared at the images, his imperial certainty shaken. If they're as powerful as you claim, how can they be stopped? Not easily. But we've learned their weaknesses during our time between dimensions. They can be fought, but not by any single species alone. The Seracs fleet is impressive by conventional standards, but against the Void Weavers, it would be as effective as hurling stones at a supernova. And you expect us to simply take your word for this? To upend our entire civilization based on the warning of beings who, by your own admission, we once tried to exterminate? Adrian's form shifted, coalescing into something more definitively human. An older man with features from Earth's Asian continent, wearing what must have been the formal attire of a scientist from his era. I expect you to make the rational choice, Emperor. Your species prides itself on logic and efficiency above all else. Consider, if we wished to destroy you, why would we create this elaborate deception? We could have simply erased your fleet from existence. The logic was irrefutable, and Emperor Xorax knew it. What exactly are you proposing? An alliance, not just between humans and Seracs, but between all sentient species in this galaxy. The Void Weavers cannot be defeated by conventional weapons or strategies. Victory requires technologies that exist between dimensions, technologies we have mastered, but cannot implement on a galactic scale without hell. Adrian gestured again, and new images appeared, schematics for devices unlike anything the Seracs had ever seen. These are dimensional anchors. When deployed in specific configurations throughout the galaxy, they can strengthen the barriers between dimensions, preventing the Void Weavers from fully manifesting in our reality. The Seracs Empire has the industrial capacity and territorial reach to construct and position these anchors. We have the knowledge to make them work. Emperor Xorax studied the schematics, his tactical mind already analyzing the logistics involved. And what would prevent us from studying these devices, learning their secrets, and using them against you once the Void Weavers are defeated? Adrian's form rippled with what might have been laughter. Nothing. Study them all you wish, but they operate on principles your science won't understand for another 1,000 years at your current rate of advancement. By the time you could turn them against us, we will have evolved yet again. The Emperor's primary eyes narrowed. You said your message was run. Run where? From what? Not from us, Adrian clarified. From your current path. The path of conquest and domination that has defined your species for millennia. It leads only to extinction now. The Void Weavers are drawn to concentrated energy, especially the energy of conflict and war. Every planet you cleanse, every civilization you destroy, creates a beacon that draws them closer. The full import of these words sank in slowly. You're saying our empire itself has been attracting these creatures. Yes, your cleansings in particular. They release enormous amounts of energy into dimensions you cannot perceive. The Void Weavers sense this energy from across the galaxy. They hunger for it. Emperor Xorax turned away, processing this revelation. Everything the Seracs had built, their entire philosophy of conquest and dominion, had unknowingly been signaling their location to a threat they couldn't comprehend, let alone combat. If what you say is true, he said finally, then the Seracs Empire, as it exists, cannot continue. No, Adrian agreed. It cannot. But the Serac species can survive, can evolve, can become something greater than conquerors. The Emperor turned back to face the human. My ancestors built this empire on the principle that strength prevails and weakness perishes. Are you telling me that principle is flawed? Not flawed, Adrian replied. Incomplete. True strength isn't merely the power to destroy. It's also the wisdom to create, to adapt, to cooperate when necessary. Your ancestors destroyed our world because they feared our potential. Now we offer you the chance to realize your own. For the first time in 9 centuries of absolute rule, Emperor Xorax VI faced a decision he could not make through sheer force of will or military might. The evidence before him was clear. The logic inescapable. If I agree to this alliance, he said slowly, how would it begin? Adrian's form shifted back to its more fluid state. It already has. The moment you chose to listen rather than attack, the first step was taken. Around them, the infinite space began to contract, the command deck of the Dominion's glory gradually reasserting its normal dimensions. We will return in 3 cycles with representatives from other species who have already joined our cause, Adrian said, his voice beginning to fade. Consider carefully what we've shown you, Emperor Xorax. The message we delivered to Commander Vexar applies to your entire species now. Run, not from us, with us, toward a future where survival depends not on conquest, but on creation. The command deck snapped back to normal, Adrian's presence vanishing, as if it had never been. Only the Emperor and his officers remained, staring at the empty space where the human had stood. After a long silence, High General Kaznar spoke. Your orders, Your Eminence. Emperor Xorax turned to gaze out at his assembled fleet, the mightiest armada in known space, suddenly rendered insignificant by the revelation of threats and possibilities beyond their comprehension. Recall all cleansing fleets immediately, he commanded. Suspend all territorial expansion operations. And he hesitated, knowing his next words would forever alter the course of Serax's history. Prepare the Imperial Assembly. I must address the Empire about our new alliance. As the orders were relayed throughout the fleet, Emperor Xorax remained at the viewport, watching the Mercury-like vessels slipping back into their dimensional rifts, vanishing like ghosts into the void. For 40,000 years, the humans had remembered the destruction of their world. For 40,000 years, they had evolved, transcended, prepared, not for revenge, but for something far more profound. Cooperation in the face of extinction. The irony was not lost on the Emperor. The species his ancestors had tried to eradicate now offered the only hope for the Serax's survival. The message that had so disturbed Commander Vexar now made perfect sense. Run, not a from U.S. With U.S., not a threat, not a warning, an invitation to evolution.